This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name, as always, is Russell Osborne and this is episode number 64. Thank you for your feedback on the last episode that focused in on the Lionesses and where we gave you a briefing on the Nations League changes. It is still available at your chosen podcast provider, wherever that may be. Now, it's the turn of the senior men to play their penultimate pair of games. Both of them away, of course. Firstly, in the Czech Republic in Prague, then a trip to Bulgaria and Sofia, which appears to be about 800 miles as the crow flies. I've been reading on various forums the variety of ways people are getting between the two. Sounds like a lot of fun, sounds like there'll be some good times in some European countries. Sadly, from my point of view, it's only Prague for me. Just like Spain in the Nations League last year, it clashes with my daughter's birthday. Some things are just too important. And as you can imagine, I'm not going to turn down a jelly and ice cream party with a bouncy castle and 20-odd screaming kids. You guys enjoy Sofia. Now, as we did before, we will speak with Metodi Schumanov, who gives us the lowdown on Bulgaria, and we'll also chat with Tomas Danicek, host of @Czech Footy on Twitter. First though, Gareth has announced his squad. So as per normal, a 25-man squad. I'll quickly run through it. Now I am recording this the day after the squad has been announced and before the weekend's games have been played. So the chances of some players dropping out through injury is of course there. 3 goalkeepers, Tom Heaton, Jordan Pickford and Nick Pope. Defenders, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ben Chilwell, Joe Gomez, Michael Keane, Harry Maguire. Tyrone Mings back again after being called up for the first time in the last international break. Danny Rose and a first call-up for Fikayo Tomori from Chelsea. Kieran Trippier as well. Midfielders, Ross Barkley, Fabian Delph is back. Jordan Henderson, James Maddison, will he make the pitch this time? Mason Mount, Declan Rice and Harry Winks. And up front we've got 6 players. Tammy Abraham is back after those 2 international caps, albeit against friendlies back in 2007. And Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Raheem Sterling and Callum Wilson. Notable absentees include Kyle Walker, who of course was left out last time around. Perhaps a little surprising this time, although we know the manager knows his capabilities and knows where he is, but seems to want to look at other options. No Dele Alli or Jesse Lingard, which isn't really surprising given the form they're currently in. And it really does show you can't rest on your laurels. If you want to keep your place, there will always be players coming through wanting to take your place. You need to be consistent. Well, I'm consistent though. Phil Foden still hasn't been given his chance. Now another is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, although Gareth mentioned him by saying he's still coming back from a long injury. He was called up to the last squad to let him know he's still in our thoughts, and as the season goes on, he expects him to be fighting for a place. And of course, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was in the last squad but pulled out injured and is still injured. Of course, those new names stand out. Chelsea have 4 players included, one of which is Fikayo Tomori. He's actually born in Canada, but also has the choice of playing for Nigeria should he not make the pitch in these 2 games. And on a similar footing is Tammy Abraham, who we said there, despite playing in 2 previous friendlies, those were in 2007 against Brazil and Germany, he too can also represent Nigeria. Southgate said of Tammy Abraham, it was a fairly easy decision as he is the leading English goalscorer in the league. As I mentioned, James Maddison, he can take his current form into an England shirt. Will he get that deserved cap? And one thing that keeps surprising me is Marcus Rashford's caps. He's currently got 34 and only 21 years old. 7 goals too. Hopefully the next 2 games will be an opportunity for him to add to that tally. I know you like your facts on the squad, but teams represented: 4 for Chelsea, 3 for Liverpool. Leicester have got 2, Everton have got 3, Villa have got 2, Spurs 3, Man United 2, Burnley 1, West Ham 1, Dortmund 1, Bournemouth 1, Atletico Madrid 1, and Manchester City 1. Across the squad, as an average age of 24 and a half, caps a total of 378, and goals in the team 54. Of course, Harry Kane, 26 of those to his name. Raheem Sterling, he's got 10, and as we mentioned, Marcus Rashford, he has got 7. Okay, time to speak now with our 2 contributors from overseas as they give us the lowdown on Prague and the Czech Republic, and Sofia and Bulgaria. Now, first up for England is the Czech Republic. We meet on Friday, the 11th of October in Prague. And I'd like to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, Tomas Danicek. Tomas, hello there.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining. I must say you are the host of the Twitter site at Czech Footy.
Yes, indeed.
How long's that been going for, and how did that all come about?
It's actually very, very new. I've been running it since July. I think it's basically a summer project sort of. So I hope I'll still find time throughout Christmas and all kinds of stuff that could be tricky. And it's basically just because most of the national teams or countries, even Kosovo, has their own English account, and for the Czech football, there haven't been much, just information here and there. So I thought it would be nice to have everything at one place and retweet fans and everything. It's kind of going nice so far.
Well, no, it's been incredibly helpful to myself, and I'm sure many other people. If people do want to find that at Czech Footy, it will of course link to that through our own Three Lions podcast account. Now let's look forward to this game in Prague. The Czech squad has been announced, and I must say that we are talking prior to weekend's round of games before the international, so there may be a few changes. But what are the sort of players that we should be looking out for with regards to the Czech squad?
The one question mark actually is Patrik Schick, who's basically our only scorer at the moment, or capable scorer at least, who's scored I think 4 or 5 goals in recent months, and he's been struggling with injuries since the September break. So he's supposed to be in full training, but that's precisely the thing we are looking out for during the weekend, whether he makes at least the bench at Leipzig, and whether he can make some sort of a return so we can count on him. So he would be the one, obviously, to keep tabs on, even for English defenders. And then who's his main creator or supplier would be Jakub Jankto, who's now at Sampdoria in Italy. He was also, for his part, he was a bit injured and also struggling for playing time, but now he scored a very nice goal against Inter the last weekend. I mean, now it's not going to be the last one, but hopefully he'll show another good performance and he'll come into the break full of confidence. He's basically our main not necessarily distributor. He's a bit of an inverted winger who has a very alert passing and then can make that through ball and assist.
I see. Now, I also noticed that the squad is made up quite heavily of Slavia Prague players. Yeah,
that's right. The thing is, basically, the first game with England, which no one really wants to recall at the moment, it was we were super negative, and we played 5 defenders in not really a 5 defender formation. It was basically just hoping for the best, which didn't come. And now it's probably going to be a lot different because one defender, Gebre Selassie, retired. Since then, Kalas is injured, and basically, especially in defense now, we could have for the full Slavia defense, which would be an advantage in a way, because Slavia plays a very high intense, high tempo football. And so most of the defenders, even midfielders with Souček, who's the holding midfielder, they are able to run a lot and basically keep up with the best teams. We saw it against Inter. We saw it to an extent against Dortmund yesterday. So yeah, that would probably be the idea behind why everyone is called up now.
I see. And that game against Dortmund, I think I'm right in saying that there were 7 players in this squad that played for Slavia against Dortmund, which is quite an impressive amount to bring into a national squad. And just going or referencing that game, I saw parts of it on the telly yesterday. It's the same ground that this game, the England or Czech Republic against England game, will be played at, the Schumanov Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. It's in Vršovice. It's kind of off the city center, but basically at the perfect spot even for some post-match drinking and stuff like that. And yeah, it's basically the most modern stadium we have in the country. It's been built, I don't know, some 10 years ago. So yeah.
What's the capacity of it?
It's reaching around 20,000, I think. To be fair, I don't know the exact figure, but it's still on the low end compared to the biggest stadiums in England and Europe. But yeah, it's the biggest one here, together with Letna, with the Sparta Stadium, who have around the same.
It seemed to generate quite an atmosphere in there. Obviously, it was 2 different teams, but does the sound and the acoustics keep well in the ground there?
Yeah, I would say I find it pretty nice for the fans, but at the same time, I would stress that, especially in our country, I think in England it might be similar, but with Czech fans, we get very apathetic. Towards the national team, we don't really, especially at this now, since we have a bit of a conservative coach. The last time since the golden days, we were kind of excited was when Verba, who was basically the unanimous choice of everyone for the best coach of the country at that time. We won against the Netherlands and stuff like that. There's not such sense of us being capable of coming up against the bigger sides at the moment. As I said, we were very negative in England, and it's probably going to be same now. So it's not even sold out. I think the game now, they are still advertising the tickets. So it's probably the atmosphere is not going to be, amazing, I would say.
Right.
But for Slavia, it's obviously a very different game.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just looking at the group as it currently stands at the moment, Group A, at present, the Czech Republic are in second place after you played 5 games. You won 3, you've lost 2. But I think it is going to be a fight for that second place between yourselves and Kosovo. You both actually meet next month. Do you think you can get that second place?
I think we have the home soil advantage in the return game, which is going to be hopefully huge. It's going to be played in Pilsen as well, which is interesting that it's outside Prague for such a crucial game. But actually, we have a very positive record there, so hopefully it's going to count. The game in Kosovo was very low on intensity or urgency from our side, so that was a big. Basically, all the critics made a strong point against the national team, and basically the team then rebounded against Montenegro. Even though the performance wasn't as good as the scoreline suggests, they still sort of hit back, and it was clear that they made a greater effort to bring that points back. So hopefully they can replicate it against England. As I said, if Slavia players and as many as 5 or 6 can start, probably if they can bring that form back, it's going to be hopefully a boost, sort of intensity wise.
Right. And you mentioned the ground, the Schumanov Stadium, where the game will be played. Is in sort of a short walk from the centre of town, did you say?
Short walk, it might be around 3 kilometers probably, so it's more of a tram journey, but it's nothing Yeah, it's nothing long, or it's kind of off city center, but at the same time, it's where many of the bars, or not bars, more like pubs, the traditional oldish ones are. So I think it's nice for, especially if you're traveling, it's nice also to see these parts of the town, because for locals we don't really go to those tourist parts. I guess that's usual.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned the word there that many England fans' ears will prick up, the pub. What can we expect to sample beer food wise in Prague?
Well, we have a huge range of beer brands. We are very proud of that. So there's plenty of pubs that even have those taps where you can self-serve yourselves.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice. At the same time, obviously, a selection of Irish pubs and that kind of stuff, if you're into it. There's one low-key, kind of comfortable Irish style, which is called Merlin, and it's pretty close to the stadium as well.
Is that the name of the bar, Merlin?
Yeah, Merlin. Yeah. Basically, I mean, it would be easier, and I'll probably I'll tweet at you a list of, because plenty of things are spelled very intricately. So.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I'll basically, like, even, for example, when it comes to like a true nightlife, there's plenty of clubs. I'm not necessarily into clubs, but around the street at Dlouhá, which translates to Long Street, there you have plenty of those, and basically you can just walk or pop from one to another. And one of them is called James Dean, again, podcast friendly, friendly name.
And for Czech food, what's the local delicacy?
Well, we sort of overlap with Hungarian or German cuisine, I would say. With Hungarian, it's mostly goulash, so all sorts of sauces with meat. It's a very meaty and kind of oily stuff, not necessarily something for vegans or vegetarians. That might be tricky even at menus to find stuff for those. Yeah, also dumplings, not the Korean style dumplings. It's more made out of bread or potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like a side dish. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Cabbage usually goes together all well. A lot of sauces and that kind of stuff.
Good stuff. So, sounds good. I mean, during the day, I went to Prague about 9 or 10 years ago, and obviously there's the Charles Bridge, and there is the main square, which you may have to remind me the name of, but it's got the very large clock there, which a lot of tourists go to. Is there anywhere else that people can head to?
Yeah, the Old Town Square, you probably mean, with the clock. Those were actually being reconstructed lately, but I think it's now okay again. We sort of had a controversy recently with pandas all around the square, which obviously we don't have any pandas in the country. So it was some sort of a deal with Chinese government, or I don't know. And I expected some sort of environmental agenda or whatever, and it's just for tourists, just to take pictures. It was quite awful. There was a huge backlash. So hopefully they are not there anymore. But the square is nice. The Charles Bridge, of course, as well, though it gets really crowded during the day in a way that you basically can't pass within minutes. And I would actually, if you go for clubbing or pubs later, to the other side of the river, I would probably just take a stroll back during the night, because then it gets magical, the Charles Bridge and even the Prague Castle. But during the day, it's just too crowded.
I see. And one other thing that I have seen is the Great Strahov Stadium, which I suggest listeners go and have a quick Google of this, the Strahov Stadium, because it appears to be a large stadium with 9 pitches within it. Is that right?
Yeah, it used to be a huge complex for mostly the communist. I don't know. We call it Spartakiada, Spartakiades. I don't know if it's a word in English, but it was basically like the huge showcase of the unity of communist regime or that kind of stuff. And it used to be at some point, I think, the biggest stadium in Europe, bordering on 100 years now. I think it celebrated 90 years just recently. It used to have capacity of around 300,000, I think.
That's right. I've read here on it's 250,000 spectators, of which 56,000 is seated, which just seems an amazing stadium. Does it get used?
Yeah, that's the thing. Basically, now in Strahov, Sparta has the training center there, and there's still a lot of youth tournaments, especially, are taking place there. But Slavia had like a temporary stadium there when the current one, which the game will be played in, was being reconstructed or constructed again. So they were there actually for the first Champions League. They played there as well at Strahov. So it was Slavia's home, but also the location is very awkward. So for most fans, so it was kind of it wasn't necessarily liked and sort of embraced by the fans.
Is it far away from the centre?
It's a bit far away, yeah. It's there was like one bus going. I remember when we were going for matches, and it's on a big hill. There's basically nothing around.
Right.
It's a bit, but obviously since it was so huge, it needed to be sort of not really in the center. It couldn't have been out there. But now I think there was a talk about gallery. We have a sports union of some sorts having a headquarters there. The football association as well. So it's basically a mixture, as you said, it's a mixture of things now. Still to this day, only the things are a bit different, or the associations.
I see. Well, it certainly looks a place of interest, and I can imagine a few England fans will find their way there.
Good luck to them.
Now, there was talk, I did hear when the games were first announced, that when this was going to be played on a Friday night, the mayor of Prague wasn't particularly happy with the thought of a lot of English fans coming over. Was that right?
I haven't caught that, but I wouldn't be surprised, because to be fair, well, not to be fair, it's a bit of a stereotype at this point, but English, not fans necessarily, more like people on stag do's, have kind of a bad reputation for destroying the city center, but obviously it's overblown. And I think it's not Prague only, it's Budapest at the moment and stuff like that.
Are the people of Prague a little wary of a lot of an influx of England fans coming over?
I wouldn't say it's in the air or something. I wouldn't say they are wary. Most likely they'll join them eventually anyway. So
sounds good. Okay, well, I mean, back to the match. Are you going to the game?
I hope so. I'm still waiting for accreditation, and if not, I'll probably just head to town and suck in some atmosphere anyway. But yeah, I don't have a ticket, but hopefully I'll get in anyway.
Okay, and do you have a prediction for the scoreline?
I think I would take a tight loss. The coach himself said that basically any point will be a bonus, and that they are already sort of preparing, at least mentally, for the Kosovo game, which I guess makes sense. I don't necessarily like it from the coach perspective. I would expect them to go for points, but we have to be realistic, and unless England rotates like crazy, and even then it's going to be hard. So I would hope for like 1-2, 1-3, something like the Dortmund-Slavia result, I guess.
Right. Okay, well, we shall wait and see. Thomas of @CzechFooty on Twitter. We'll, of course, link to that. And, maybe we can catch up in Prague.
Yeah, hopefully, definitely.
Okay, well, you've got my contact details. All the best. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to welcome back to the Three Lions podcast from Bulgaria, based in Sofia, Metodi Schumanov.
Hello, Russell. Thanks for inviting me.
No, welcome back. How have you been?
I've been really well. I'm looking forward to welcoming the England team here in Sofia, and hopefully the outcome of the game might be a bit different compared to what happened at Wembley last month.
Yes, well, let's get straight onto it. Let's get onto it, and then we don't have to talk about it again from your perspective. 4-0, wasn't it? But sort of didn't really tell the 4-0 scoreline didn't really tell the story of the game, because frankly, it wasn't the most exciting of games, was it?
Totally agree. Maybe during the first half, Bulgaria played a decent game. There were some nice opportunities, although Coach Balakov had promised before the game to not park the bus. Of course, we played in a really defensive way, but that was the only way to stop that England team. We managed to keep the clean sheet until the end of the first half. But then we conceded, and it was an unlucky goal, I should say. And after the break, we collapsed. And I must say that the fans here in Bulgaria were upset with the performance because, okay, nobody expected to beat England at Wembley, but maybe we were too defensive and we offered so little up front. And as you saw, there were two Brazilian players on the team. They are back again, included in the squad for the upcoming match in Sofia. So people are expecting from Balakov to get some results because his first 4 games in charge didn't go according to plan. He lost all 4 of them. And it will be difficult for him to turn the tide because we have 2 difficult matches coming our way, away at Montenegro, and then we are at home against England. So the expectations are low, but of course we expect this team to give their best and to fight against the odds.
I think any team in your position, that was what you really want to see, is the players giving their all, isn't it? And I think in your defence, I mean, when Harry Kane's on the form he is at the moment, he got a hat-trick against yourselves. There's sort of no stopping him. But that game against Montenegro, before you play England, that I think will really determine who finishes bottom, unfortunately, of Group A, won't it? You're really looking for a result against Montenegro.
That's true. And to be honest, everyone here is expecting to reach the Nations League playoffs. Maybe this will be our unique chance and opportunity to make the Euro 2020 finals. Although if we deserve to be there is completely another subject. But luckily we had a really decent Nations League campaign. So we are looking forward to learning whether we will make the playoffs. And as far as this proper qualifying campaign is concerned, well, it certainly hasn't met expectations.
Yeah, and I think actually you mentioned there the Nations League playoffs. And am I right in saying there's a possibility that you may play Scotland in the first semi-final if positions are as they are at the moment?
I think you're right in saying this. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everyone from England wishes you all the very best in playing Scotland. Should that be the opportunity?
Well, if the whole England nation is behind us, maybe we can beat anyone.
We shall see. But good luck. I guess as well, I mean, should the Nations League thing not take off, I guess you are looking forward now to the next round of Nations League and indeed World Cup qualifying as a chance to get back on the world stage where you've previously been.
Yes, and as far as I know, there will be a change to the current Nations League format. It didn't last too long, I must say. So after the initial edition, there will be some changes made, and I expect this Bulgaria team to be promoted to the higher division, which will be some bad news for us, to be honest, because right now we can't compete with teams that are much better than us. So maybe it will be better if we stay where we are currently.
But let's move on to the game that's in to be in Sofia. England will come to you after playing in the Czech Republic. This the squad has been announced, the Bulgarian squad. There's a few different players this time around to the team that came to Wembley.
There are indeed. For example, there is the defender Kamen Hadziev, who plays in Hungary. He plays for Academia Puskás, and he is one of the new names called up to the national team. If he is to play, he will make his debut. It will be his first international cap. And there is also this winger. His name is Birsent Karageren. He plays for Lokomotiv Plovdiv in the Bulgarian top flight. Apart from that, the two Brazilians who were on the team the last time we faced England just a month ago, they've been called up once again. And goalkeeper Nikolai Mikhailov, who is also happens to be the son of the FA's president Borislav Mikhailov. He was the goalkeeper of that golden generation that reached the semifinals in the US in 1994. So Mikhailov Jr. is back after a few years of absence, I have to say. And those are the new faces. Luckily, compared to last time, Bulgaria's Player of the Year, Kirill Despodov, has joined in the meantime Sturm Graz in Austria, and he's been given some playing time, and maybe he will be back to his best when we face England in Sofia. So there are a lot of expectations placed on his shoulders.
So the game in Sofia will be at the National Stadium there. What's the atmosphere going to be like? What would you expect it to be like for England fans travelling?
I think that it will be a sold-out game, although we have to mention that part of the seats will be left empty because of UEFA ban. Maybe you are familiar with that story, or maybe your listeners are not. Yeah, so we have to remind them that it won't be the full capacity of the stadium, which is around 44,000 seats, but a few thousands of them will be left empty. Hopefully, there are no more incidents because, unfortunately, in the last few years, Bulgaria has made the headlines for all the wrong reasons. And I really hope that this time it will be different. Like the fans are buzzing because there are a lot of fans who support English teams here. Man United and Liverpool are really massive, I have to say. So there will be some Bulgarian fans making their way to the stadium, hoping to see some of their footballing idols and some of the England stars in action, in person. So they will be there for the England team. Yeah,
I see. And as a ground, am I right in saying it's sort of a bowl, a single tier, and is there a running track there?
Yes, there is, and there are a lot of accusations that it damages the proper footballing atmosphere, of course. But right now, we don't have a better footballing venue. And there are some plans for a new national stadium to be built on the outskirts of the city. Because right now, Vasilevsky Stadium, the venue that will host the upcoming game against England, is right at the heart of the city. So it's really easy to reach it. I guess a lot of the England fans will be staying at the hotels in the city center. So maybe it's a 10-minute walking distance from the proper city center, and they won't have any problems to reach it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, so we've mentioned the ground there. During the day, hopefully it'll be a nice day, no rain, unlike England here at the moment. But what would you recommend for England supporters to do during the day, maybe before going to the bar What would
Yes,
you recommend places to see?
there is a really nice free Sofia tour. I did it myself a few months ago because when you live in a certain city, you think you know all the stuff, but you are so wrong. And I was really happy that I had the chance to attend this city tour, and I can only strongly recommend it to everyone who is keen on learning something new about this destination to discover Sofia properly. And apart from that, there are a few Irish pubs that can draw England fans' attention.
Yeah.
It's a really nice atmosphere inside. They can have some beers and chat with some local fans. Mm-hmm.
What is the beer of Bulgaria? What should England fans sample?
And
Bulgarian
look out
beer.
for.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are a few beer brands, but maybe Stolichnu Weiss, which is a bit like the German beer.
A
So
Weiss. Okay, yeah.
Weiss, like Paulaner. So it's popular here, and it's one of my favorite. And also other beer brands that they can keep an eye on and give it a try are Kamenica and Zagorka. So there are a few they can choose from.
And what would you recommend as I'm sure there's a local McDonald's around, but if someone wanted to be a little bit more cultured, what's the Bulgarian food of choice?
Well, there are a lot of tasty options, and we eat a lot of meat, just like in Serbia, for example. So there are really delicious meatballs, for example, that go with French fries. I have to mention the local cheese because we are really famous for inventing the yogurt,
Okay. Right.
The bacteria that turns milk into yogurt. It's a Bulgarian invention, so to say.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we are really proud of our dairy products and cow cheese and goat cheese. There are a lot of delicious options you can try here.
Sounds great. And just going back to I don't want to rub it in too much, but going back to the game at Wembley, the programme that was produced, you actually had an input into that, didn't you?
Yes, indeed. I had the chance and the honor to be included in the match day program as an author. So I did an interview with Bulgarian manager Krasimir Balakov and former Man United player Dimitar Berbatov, who in the meantime has retired from the game, and Bonchugenchev, the first ever Bulgarian to have played in the Premier League.
I see. Good stuff. And were there likely to be a program? Do Bulgarians do the program thing?
I believe so, although it's not as big as in England. I mean, the tradition here is not to buy one, so there won't be like 40,000 to be sold outside the stadium. But I guess there will be a few copies at least. Some England fans maybe can get their hands on.
Oh, I see. Well, this will be the 12th match between both England and Bulgaria. At present, England have won 7 and there have been 4 draws. How do you see this game going? What's your prediction?
I really hope that we can steal a point maybe from this game, but this will be like the maximum we can get from it. And even if we lose by 1 goal margin, let's say, it will be a really decent result for our side, because as we just said, like the gap between our team and this England side is massive. What's your prediction, by the way?
I don't think it'll be a 4-0 game. I know in the past, the previous time back in 2011, it was 3-0 to England.
Yes.
And I think the team may change around following the Czech Republic game. I'd like to think we can keep a clean sheet, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 England win.
Okay.
We shall see.
We can shake hands over this result.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good to me. Metodi, thank you very much for your time, as always. If people want to follow you on social media, if you're open to that.
Sure. They can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter name is Schumansko, and I'll be really, really happy to give them some tips in the days to come. And I'll be at the game for sure, so they can follow my account in order to get some live coverage of the game from the Vasilevsky Stadium.
Great stuff. We will, of course, link to that Twitter account through our very own one as well. Metodi, thank you very much and enjoy the game.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you.
Now, it's not just the senior men playing. The youth sides have an international break too. We'll just run down some of these fixtures that they're going to be involved in, and obviously the subsequent podcast that we do that follows up the Bulgaria and Czech Republic games will hopefully get some sort of reaction to these games too. Now, the under-21s face Slovenia in Maribor, just in an international friendly. That's on Friday the 11th of October. They then travel back home to Stadium MK, of course in Milton Keynes, where they face Austria in a Euro qualifier. 15th of October, that one, and it is live on BT Sport. The under-20s face Italy in just a regular international, Thursday the 10th of October. That's going to be played in Parma. Speaking of Czech Republic, the under-20s face them at the Western Home Stadium in Peterborough, Monday the 14th of October. The under-19s face France in the International Marbella Cup. Sounds like a great venue to go and watch some football. That's Wednesday the 9th of October in the Marbella Football Centre. This little tournament, they also play Belgium on the 12th of October, again in the Marbella Football Centre. Now, England's under-18s, they're going to face Poland's under-19s, apparently, in an international friendly, Friday the 11th of October. That's away. They will also play Slovakia under-19s on Monday the 14th of October, and Austria's under-18s on Wednesday the 16th of October. And the under-17s, they are playing in an international tournament. They face Germany twice, Thursday the 10th of October and Saturday the 12th of October. And then they face Spain on Sunday the 14th of October. Now, all those games are going to be played in Spain, in the Pinatar Arena. We'll hopefully get you some sort of reaction from all of those games in the next podcast. And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to Tomas Danicek from @CzechFooty and also Metodi Schumanov for the Bulgarian input. As before, please do spread the word, like, subscribe and review at your usual podcast download place. You can find us on Twitter @3LionsPodcast. Search also Facebook and Instagram. Again, just search 3 Lions Podcast. And hey, we're also now on Google Podcasts. Who knew? So search up there, plus all the usual places, and also at 3lionspodcast.com. Now, coming up very soon, I do have a special podcast ahead of England's game against Montenegro. That's right, England's 1000th game. Please do keep your ears open for that. We'll be back very soon with a review podcast after these games against the Czech Republic and Bulgaria. So look forward to that one. If you are off to Prague, perhaps I'll see you out there. If you're heading on to Bulgaria, enjoy. But mainly, safe journey all around. And we'll speak again soon. Until then, cheers.